Hello my beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. If you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Joyce Anyanwu. Today I bring to you another politics news where Arise were interviewing Mr. Muhammad and his colleagues on how INEC has been, corrupt, rigging an election. So they are on debate that INEC should be dissolved in Nigeria election, that INEC should not have anything to do with Nigeria election. So my beautiful people, before we continue this video, let's just watch what they have to say, the interview, their response, then we will come back and wrap it on.
Appointing crony caretaker committees. Recently, the Nigerian Supreme Court hit back at this alleged cocktail of malpractices. In a landmark verdict in July, the court ruled that only democratically elected local government councils are to be funded from the federation account. It also ruled that paying local government allocations through the states had not worked, and therefore those allocations should be paid directly to the local governments themselves. But the jubilation by supporters was short-lived, because in what's been called a travesty of electoral democracy, some governors have continued to hold irregular, inconsistent local elections, using them to bring in partisan officials that they control. So how can these perversions be fixed? Well, there are different opinions about this. The national chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, or IPAC, Yusuf Mamman-Dantale, believes that the state electoral commissions should be scrapped. But Paul James from the civil society group Yerga Africa, which is dedicated to the promotion of democratic governance, makes a contrary argument. And they both join me in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. Let me start with you, Mr. Dantale. You want the state electoral commissions to be scrapped. Tell us why.
Thank you. Democracy, which is what we practice, it's a borrowed concept from the Western world, and what that stands for is representation, inclusion of all through free, fair, and credible system. But where there is deliberate exclusion, when the government form, that process is no longer inclusive. Democracy has been injured. And the foundation of any structure is the strength of that structure. In Nigeria, we have 3 tiers of government. The closest to the people is the local government.
Well, the one that's supposed to be closest to the people, yes.
But ironically, it is not, because some persons, or governors of the states in Nigeria, have pocketed the system. Why? Because of the existence of state independent electoral commission. The question is, what do you even need to conduct election? You need the register of the people, the expected voters. You have the PVC, the identification, and then you have the ballot boxes. You have the constituencies delimited. All these things belong to one agency, which is INEC.
That's the National Electoral Commission.
Yes, INEC.
Right.
So none of this, the State Independent Electoral Commission do not have any of these things. They are all borrowed from INEC. Similarly, INEC conducts election for FCT, local government area council.
Right, that's the federal capital. You know, we have an international audience, so they need to know what you mean by FCT. That's the federal capital territory.
State assembly elections, they are still conducted at the local level, at the ward level, which is also conducted by INEC. So if the people who were behind the laws that established State Independent Electoral Commission were wrong at that time, because they did not envisage the other side of SIEC being established, we are all seen as Nigerian. That is useless.
Right. So your contention, which you've made very robustly there, is that as a result of those arguments, it should be scrapped.
It should be scrapped.
Okay, let me bring you in, Paul James. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and for your patience there. You don't think the state electoral commissions should be scrapped, although you agree that they're not performing up to par. What's the argument for that position?
Well, my first point will be to say I think the greatest problems of the State Independent Electoral Commission are two people: the politicians. But I'll come back to those points later. But let me start from...
When you said politicians, who's the second?
Politicians are one of the problems of the State Independent Electoral Commission,
right,
as we have them. The second problem is also the operating environment, that is the enabling laws and all of that. But I'll come back to that. Okay. I'll digest them soon. For me, I think the call to scrap the State Independent Electoral Commission is fundamentally flawed and it's an aberration to the Constitution, and for me will undermine our democracy that we have so much cherished in the last 25 years for two reasons. Number one is the same structure that we are all calling upon to take over the responsibility of conducting an election had over time said they are overstretched. The same structure is doing by-election, is conducting off-cycle election, it's conducting general election, is also doing party monitoring, is also doing registration of parties and all of that. It said it is overstretched. And I know there is a new argument that, oh, we could also create an independent body. But these are also not imbued from the state capture that we have been seeing happening in recent time, the sort of pressure that we have also been seeing mounted on the Independent Electoral Commission, as it were. I have heard the chairman even on other platforms where he had raised this concern, even after the Edo election and what had happened in Edo election. But I don't think they will be completely insulated from these challenges if you throw back this to the commission. Number two, for me, like I will say, is that it's also undermine the constitutional democracy as we have. If you want talking about devolution of powers, right, then you want to have
the issue of federal.
Exactly. You want to have the state function as issue function. The third point will be for me also that it takes away local democracy and takes away the power of the people to get to choose how they want to practice their own kind of democracy, engage in their own kind of democracy. What are the issues, like I had said? One, the political structure, as it were. Because the laws are there, the system is there, but they have not allowed the system to thrive. In the sense, there is one thing you can do that can fix this problem. All of this is because people want to grab the structure at the local level. And then how do you fix this problem? Fix the problem of tenure of office. And once that you have that, because the Constitution is silent about that, and I have studied over 9 or 10 state electoral law. In fact, you will not even find the word tenure in most of the electoral law. Right. The only place you see tenure is as it connects to the commission, 5-year tenure of office, 2-term and all of that. The only state electoral law so far that has something about tenure was the one for Plateau State that was recently passed. Only that has something about tenure. So if you solve the problem of tenure of office, if you guarantee the operational independence of the State Independent Electoral Commission, it takes over this. Because what happens is that every governor comes in, he or she wants to have the structure in place, and then they will quickly rush to conduct local government elections. In the last 4 months since the Supreme Court judgment, we've had more than 13 state conduct elections. Of course, I know we had challenges with this election. They did not meet the electoral integrity standard. Well, at least it is a start.
You did a report on that.
Yes, we were from a place. Did a report. We were from a place before the Supreme Court action that we had only 14 states that had democratically elected local council election to now 33 states, 31 states rather.
And we can see that on the screen.
Yes,
now.
And now we've got 31 states that had democratically elected local council election. I think for me it's a good start. Is it to the level that we expect? No. And that is why we need to be in searchlight more on what is happening at those levels, like I was saying. So, I mean, to go back to the...
very briefly, because I have to give him a chance to respond.
Yeah, so to go back to the point, we know there are challenges with capacity at that level, but even the commission that we keep praising, we know it also didn't get to that level overnight. It got a lot of support from the politicians. It got a lot of support from every stakeholder to get to that level. I think to fix the problem is to fix the leadership recruitment problem, and that could start from IPAC. IPAC can help us in that regard. If they come up with a structure, come up with a law that said once you get into this exalted office, you need to guarantee operational independence of the structures at those levels, I think we'll fix the problem.
Right. Mr. Dantale, your reaction to that, because, I mean, let's be absolutely fair. He's made a lot of very reasonable and logical points, and one of them is the reality, because you also talked about the reality in Nigeria. As you know, the governors use state assemblies as well to protect their hold on those local governments. Lots of local autonomy bills have been rejected by state assemblies, so a bill to scrap the state electoral commissions will most certainly face very stiff opposition from the governors. So doesn't it make sense to do the sort of thing that he's suggesting?
Okay, away from what you said, we are afraid of the bill being rejected. Isn't it?
Well,
not
I wouldn't say afraid.
Yes, of course. You are afraid that the
But
governors
you're
will not allow it to scale through. That's what
Right,
you're saying.
well,
so because the governors won't allow it to scale through, we shouldn't attempt to do it.
No, that's not the point.
That is it. That's what it's saying. The thing is that you said INEC doesn't have the capacity. The INEC chairman was before the Senate committee or the joint committee recently, and he said INEC have the capacity to conduct elections at the local government.
Yeah, but there's
elections.
a difference between what he says
Yeah.
and what is actually happening, because we all watch elections in this country and the problems that they face every time there's an election.
What is actually happening? What?
Well, that's what I'm just telling you.
What all the things that is needed, just understand this thing.
Right.
What is needed for the conduct of election? The State Independent Electoral Commission have none of this, apart from the personnel. The same personnel, INEC have them to conduct the same election. State Assembly election is local. Even the presidential election is conducted up to the ward level. A senatorial election is conducted at the ward level. A governorship election is conducted at the ward level. So what are we saying? So what is that thing that the State Independent Electoral Commission is doing that INEC do not have the capacity to do?
So your argument is that in spite of, because I mean you're a politician. I mean you've seen you've seen Nigerian elections, many of them. In spite of the gross imperfections in INEC in its conduct of those federal and state elections, you think Nigeria would be better off if INEC was to conduct those elections on the local government level, and they'd be more credible?
We have a point of
than what you have now.
We have a point of confluence,
right?
And that point is the politician, the political actors. So who are the governors? The same political actors.
Absolutely.
So the problem,
your people.
So fine,
your chums.
Fine. The thing is that there is always a primary and secondary problem. But the primary problem is do not even give the opportunity. And one thing that we don't always talk about is, would I say, corruption in the system? Because all these things, the focus that we try to circumvent the rules to get at what we want is for personal reasons.
Absolutely.
Not for the purpose of serving the people.
Absolutely.
So that nobody is addressing. So we need to question the purpose.
Yeah, but that's the point he's making.
Yeah. Okay, fine. That's why I said we have a point of confluence.
Right, okay, yes.
Yes. Okay, I agree with him on that. But first thing, operations of the existence of state is a waste of resources. There is no way you will allow the man who want to remain in power, even after service, he want to he want to remain there through the window by planting a stooge. Okay, we want to go to the Senate, he wants to remain perpetually in power. For what purpose? Because of economic benefit.
Do you agree that it's a waste of resources? Because to be honest with you, he has a point there.
Well, the second point I wanted to make, with all that he listed, I told you we have two problems with the local elections, with even our elections. One, the politician. Two, the justice system or the judiciary. And all of the things that he had listed, some of the states attempted to conduct elections, but because of also the interference of the judiciary. In fact, we got a state now that is planning an election tomorrow, and they also have that problem. There is no clarity whether they should go ahead with the election, even though the governor had insisted the election must happen. We had states in this country where the court told the INEC not to release voter register.
Yeah, but what is the what is the issue there? I mean, is it the law being used or not used to assert independence and exert?
It is also the political class that are abusing the justice system, that are ensuring that the State Independent Electoral Commission don't strive.
So they're using the law to ensure executive overreach.
To undermine the integrity of the electoral process. That is the point I'm trying to make. And even if we look at it from the more broader perspective, from the national election that also had happened, look at just the Edo election and how they almost want to put INEC, stifle INEC from INEC's operation. More than 30 governors were in Edo the weekend of the elections.
And that's quite intimidating.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that is the same strategy you see everywhere, even if it goes to the state election. If a governor perpetually wants to be in power, if there is the way they can also introduce a third, fourth time, they will do it. If they have the willpower to do that, they will, I mean, if there is a way they can breach the constitution to do that, we will see that happen in this country. So we see what they do with federal elections. We see what they do with state elections. That is also the same you see at the local election. If you go to the local level, the citizen does not know the difference between CIEC and INEC. They see everyone as INEC. So as far as they are concerned, INEC is as bad as how they see their local election. It is at this level that we think INEC is so good. The same INEC the politicians will praise in this election, and they will condemn in the next election. It depends on the side of the divide and how INEC will decide to play along with them in the elections. We are friends with INEC. We love to support INEC. We want to see INEC do well. And INEC has done incremental progress in the last 10, 12 years. And we are saying we can replicate the thing across board. I mean, we had countries where states control elections, even in Africa. Why don't we repeat that in Nigeria? Why don't we have that in Nigeria? If INEC is conducting state by-elections and all of that, perhaps it is time to begin to think, how do we empower even the state independent commission to do that?
I wonder what your reaction is to that, because one of the arguments against what you're recommending is the issue of federalism. And that if you do what he's talking about, you're starting the process of getting it into people's heads, the issue of devolution of powers. You're devolving powers from INEC. The argument has always been that federal institutions are incapable of reaching across the entire country, so that it makes logical sense to start breaking that process down. And this could be one way to do it.
Thank you. It is fine. It is good, but I want us to, you see, some things are important and urgent at a particular time. Some are important but not urgent. What I want us to look at, in the other elections, in the election conducted by INEC, politicians buy votes, right? But in the local elections, in the elections conducted by SEC, you don't hear about vote buying. Do you hear about vote buying?
Well, that's because they don't allow
one person controls.
They don't allow the elections to happen.
Absolutely.
The question is, do you hear about vote buying?
No, but he's telling you why.
Fine. So, no, that tells you that elections conducted by INEC is far, far better because the votes actually count.
Well,
you understand?
That's a completely different argument.
But here, there is no vote to even count.
Right.
You understand? So that is where the issue of corruption, money influence in politics, in the electoral process comes in.
Well,
so if we have to look at that, we have to look at that foundation.
Yeah.
You understand? So if you have INEC conduct election, first, it will save us resources. It will sanitize the process. Even though the election conducted by INEC is not perfect, but it's far, far better.
Well, it's far from perfect, isn't it?
No, there's no perfect election anywhere in the world.
Good. That's the argument from politicians.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's why it's always free, fair.
Yeah.
A credible election, but there's no perfect election anywhere in the world.
But your argument is that on the local government level, there is no election at all.
At all.
Yeah.
I think we're missing the point here.
Excuse me. The recent election being conducted by SEC, what you hear is announcement around this social
Coronation.
party A ward. Thank you. No votes.
Yeah, but you could make the same argument about, I mean, the way you guys conduct your primaries. There is, in many cases, there are no elections. In other words, you're part of the habit of electoral malpractice in this country.
You cannot separate Nigerian politicians from Nigerian society. He said something, that judiciary is being used. In whose interest?
Right, okay, well,
so the thing is,
we've got a few minutes left before we have to end the chat. Just make your point quickly and then we'll try and round this.
Yeah, my point is, right, I think we're missing the whole point. It's also about the institution itself, and we need to protect the institution, both INEC, both judiciary, and both SEC. We're talking about one entity in the whole structure here, and I'm sure that is where the fingers are pointed to, the governors. And if we think they have so much powers that they are usurping what others should do, then how do we cut these powers? I think for me that is where they are where we should be focusing attention to. And like I had mentioned earlier, and I will stick with that, I will stay with that, that if we have constitutional guarantees, you go to the Constitution, for instance, Constitution mentioned tenure of office for governors, but the Constitution is silent about tenure of office for...
And is there also a lot of inconsistency between state electoral laws and the the 2022 Electoral Act?
And what is our own advocacy around it? That if we can have one source of truth, if we can have one law to regulate all of this, the Electoral Act, as it were, had provided that provision, section 165 of the Electoral Act. It said states should model their election as the FCT election. FCT has now introduced, I mean, based on the tenure of office, that is why you don't have election in FCT this year. It will have been 3 years. FCT will not have election next year. And we think the states can adopt the same thing. Introducing technologies and all of that. We have seen states in recent time that have dumped technology and returned to manual. And I mean, we had a reflection roundtable just yesterday. We got about 6 or 7 chairmen of the State Independent Electoral Commission. One of them was asked to reflect on the recent election. The person just started laughing. I conclude that they had a peaceful election. They had a peaceful election. I mean, it's so shameful that at this point...
sorry, go ahead.
I like your opening statement that we're talking about hijack of state institution or a state legitimate process. We should fix the problem.
My beautiful people in the house. Hey, welcome back. You have heard the gentlemen have said their mind. One is saying they should scratch out the INEC, while the other one is saying that the INEC have to be conducting the election. So, what did you guys think about this conversation? Please drop your opinion in the comment section. For me, INEC is one of the arms that is so corrupt. They are the problem in this election. I don't know, is it the INEC or the workers? You know, like for example, the chairman, the INEC chairman, that man is so just corrupt. So the problem about this INEC is not just the INEC, but it's the workers, the people that are working under INEC. They are just too corrupt. corruption. What I have to say in this matter is that they need to reshuffle all those INEC workers, people, especially the chairman of INEC. They really need to remove that man in that place. Let them remove that man so that they replace another person. Let it be a change in INEC. Where Tinubu is removing people from his cabinet, appointed, removing people that he knows that cannot work with, that knows that cannot rig election with him. What about INEC? What is happening in INEC? Every INEC, they are too corrupt. To the corruption that is going on in INEC, all the election process is done by INEC, and they are the one that have been handling. If INEC decide that you will win that election, there is nothing you can do because they are the one handling that election. Right now, for me, I even think that counting or voting doesn't even count anymore. For them going to count the voter people that have been voting, it doesn't really work anymore in Nigerian election system, electoral system, sorry. You know, so what I really feel in this matter, that they should, you know, replace the workers, the INEC officials. They should replace them. That is what I really see in this matter. Then you see, if they replace the good one, the ones that are not corrupt, everything will go smoothly. So I don't even buy that idea of let's scratch INEC out, or let's leave INEC, or let INEC be conducting the election. So all those ones don't even have anything. The problem in INEC is the officials that are working there. Anyway, my people, I don't know if you people agree with me, so drop your opinion in the comment section. Thank you very much if you have watched this video to this time, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye for now.